We surveyed a bunch of our friends and college classmates on the steps they take to get ready to go out at night. After all, we are in college, and this is Miami.
Our male friends largely reported the following. They took a quick shower. For appearance, they threw on some clothes, whatever's clean. They're not exactly stressed about who is coming. When asked about steps they would take for safety, they said that they kind of shrugged and said that they'd take an Uber and make sure that they wore their seatbelt. When asked about why they might not drink in a club, price was their main factor. I mean, come on, who wants to pay $15 for a drink?
Then we asked our female friends the same questions. For appearance, look cute enough to get into the club,
But not too cute.
throw on your Spanx so that you don't flash anyone,
And so if you do get groped, at least they're not touching your skin.
put on your heels, do your makeup, check which friends are going so that you know you have someone with you at all times.
Because going to the bathroom alone is out of the question.
Make sure all of your friends are on Find My Friends, so if anyone gets separated, they can be found easily.
So naturally, your phone needs to be charged. It should be at 100% before you leave, just in case.
In with 5, leave with 5. The same friends you go in with will be the same as who you leave with.
You Uber together so that nobody's Ubering alone.
Walk in, scan the room, see where you can dance.
You don't want anyone sneaking up behind you. And when asked about why they might not drink in a club, worry of having an uncovered cup was their main concern. And when asked about what steps they would take for safety, they also shrugged. All of their steps were taken for safety.
We live in different worlds and different contexts. Before we begin, we would like to give a quick trigger warning. This talk is on the Me Too movement and contains information on sexual assault, which we recognize may be triggering to survivors.
We would also like to acknowledge that we recognize that sexual assault is not contained to one heteronormative pattern, meaning between a man and a woman, where a man is a perpetrator and a woman is a survivor of sexual assault. However, in order to communicate efficiently with this clock ticking in front of us, we will be referring to the narrative we've seen most often on college campuses, which is men as the perpetrators and women as the survivor of sexual assault. Again, we recognize this is not always the case. In fact, in the United States, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men will experience some form of contact sexual violence in their lifetime.
When choosing to talk about sexual assault, we were worried that people would see the topic and say, ugh, another one of these talks? Or Evelyn, I've seen the T video, I get it. And ultimately block out what we have to say because of these admittedly stressful conversations. Or maybe we're just simply desensitized to the weight of this issue. To be mindful of this, we would like to welcome you all into this conversation.
Now that we're all on the same page, the topic for this TED Talk came to us in September of last year when watching the Netflix documentary Reversing Roe on the status of women's reproductive rights in the United States.
I watched the documentary with my boyfriend. After watching it, I was incredibly upset about the state that reproductive rights are in our country, and I was also triggered by others feeling entitled to make decisions about my body. I was surprised because while I was upset and crying, my boyfriend, who is usually on a similar wavelength as I am, was pretty unbothered. I talked to a close friend the next day about this because I was frustrated and confused. She told me that she had had the exact same experience. After talking to multiple other women, it was clear that my experience was not an anomaly. Then this began our line of questioning. If these men in our lives, men who are passionate about inclusivity and equity, were not understanding the weight of sexual assault and society's lack of response to it, then who else was not getting this? How is this apathy affecting the movement? How could this movement proceed with so many apathetic allies?
In our journey to answer these questions, we decided to turn to successful social justice movements and how they maneuvered around the potentially apathetic or desensitized members within to create sustainable change. What we identified with a professor after analyzing the civil rights movement and the LGBTQ movement was that there are 3 stages. First, injustice is present yet not discussed.
Stage 2, oppressed population raises awareness about injustice and speaks out.
And stage 3, the community participates in the conversation to create sustainable change.
Upon application of these 3 stages to the Me Too movement, we've recognized that as a society, we've stagnated in stage 2. However, to talk about how to move into stage 3, we must recap on where we've been.
So, stage 1, injustice is present yet not discussed. Or in terms of the Me Too movement, we identify this as primarily the time before the movement began when there was no large-scale acknowledgement of these issues. Sexual assault was constantly happening, continuously ignored, and not discussed. There are many factors that make sexual assault difficult to talk about, between power dynamics and the fact that a large portion of sexual assault tends to happen within communities by friends and people that you know.
Personally, I became passionate about sexual assault sophomore year. It was motivated because I was sexually assaulted by a previous friend of mine, someone I still see regularly and who is still a part of my community.
We love these people, we support these people, yet they're also causing us pain. And the healing process does not have a timeline. Unlike a broken arm, you cannot always see the trauma that a victim has experienced, let alone recognize that they may never fully heal. We believe strongly that music is a representation of society. So to give you a peek into that time, we would like to share with you the TLC song from 1992, His Story.
Sometimes I feel like there is no reason for me to explain. No matter how much we complain, you know it all stays the same. They try to call us freaks. Why does it have to be? We can get justified until we speak up.
And now many brave women are speaking up. We're in stage 2. Oppressed population raises awareness about injustice and speaks out. For the Me Too movement, this stage includes the coining of the term Me Too, and also women speaking at men about our experiences. The founder of the Me Too movement is the fabulous Tarana Burke, a civil rights activist from Harlem. She was using this term long before it was a hashtag or went viral, back in 2007. Now let's fast forward 10 years. We're in 2017. The actress Alyssa Milano tweeted, "Me Too suggested by a friend. If all of the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted write Me Too as their status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of this issue. If you've been sexually harassed or assaulted, reply Me Too to this tweet." After this tweet, the hashtag went viral. Within 24 hours, it was shared in over 12 million posts on Facebook. This began the social media revolution of sexual assault and also a new wave of social media activism.
While social media is wonderful in that it makes it easier to spread messages, engage users, and lift up the voices of marginalized populations, social media can also cause a movement to stagnate. It's easy to make a post, especially when it makes you seem like you're passionate about social justice issues, and it's trendy, so it'll get you more likes. But oftentimes, action is not followed after these posts or hashtags, and it just sits on the internet. We've seen a lot of people here at college that are quick to make a post, yet slow to actually sign up to volunteer. I mean, how many times have you heard crickets when trying to organize a service event?
Anyways, while Christy wallows in her frustration of empty sign-up lists, let's join her in reflecting on stage 2 with the song "Till It Happens to You" by Lady Gaga, written in 2015.
Until now, women have talked around men, in some cases at men, because we feel like we're constantly saying, "You just don't get it, you don't know how it feels." It's not to say that these women are miscommunicating or that they're having these interactions irresponsibly. It's to say that these qualms come from a place of genuine frustration and sadness that they often feel towards men and are unable to articulate it. And that leads us into stage 3.
Stage 3, community participates in the conversation. In this instance, bringing men into the conversation. This is the stage where we're urging ourselves and each other to consciously think about if we're engaging men in the conversation on sexual assault, and also what is happening in our communities.
So it's pretty safe to say that we've been some fun company lately because we've been systematically testing out our discussion question and the men in our lives. So huge shout out to you guys for being our unknowing test subjects.
While writing the song, we thought long and hard about the perfect intervention, or the perfect dialogue. We thought us two could change the world. But we were very quickly hit with reality and very readily humbled.
We recognized that it wasn't from a lack of desire to understand. It was that from day to day, men are living in a different reality than women. So another Twitter thread went viral back in 2018. Danielle Moscato tweeted, "Ladies, a question for you. What would you do if all men had a 9 p.m. curfew? Dudes, read the replies and pay attention." So please take a second to think about how you would respond. The overwhelming response was, and get ready for this, "I would take a walk alone at night." That's it. We're really not asking for a lot.
Without objectifying comments, honks, whistling, or unwanted physical contact that feels like unsolicited pop-ups on the computer, women would feel comfortable walking alone at night. This reality for women is ever present, and we recognize that the reality for men is different than this. Men, even if you don't identify yourself as a perpetrator or bystander, we need you to join this conversation. Without you, we cannot move into stage 3.
We're asking everyone here to care about others. Empathy is the key to seeing and understanding other people's worlds. So please take a moment to look within yourselves and look at the people around you and how sexual assault is affecting them. Instead of pushing that pain aside, let it resonate with you, because vulnerability is crucial in order for us to all move into the third stage.
Even if it is not your mom, your sister, or your girlfriend, your relationship to the person should not determine their value. They should be valued because they are human, and an injustice is being committed against them. We all know that the foundation to sexual assault and consent is that yes means yes and no means no. But there's so much more nuance to it, and we must expand our conversations and vocabulary. We looked for a song to illustrate what we want to see in stage 3. A song written by a man, maybe about sexual assault, maybe about women's safety, but we couldn't find one. We found this to be indicative of our society's halt in stage 2. I had the brilliant idea to write our own song. I would be on vocals, Kristine on the ukulele, but we decided to spare you of that pain. So let's just move on.
So there are 3 things that we want to leave you with that'll help us move from stage 2 to stage 3, a place where everyone can feel safe and valued. First, the burden to start conversations should not be on the oppressed. We've made it an active point in this conversation, in this talk today, that everyone should step up and be a part of this movement. So when you leave here, please reflect, discuss, and repeat.
Reflect, discuss, and repeat.
Reflect on your past actions, words, and thoughts, and how we've been socialized to treat women and the gender boxes we're in. This is not a comfortable process. We're asking everyone to grow past their mindset, so there will be some growing pains. But after you've reflected, discuss. If you do pinpoint interactions where you may have made someone else feel less than, reach out to them, discuss it, apologize. This person has likely put up a buffer between you and them, even if you don't realize it. I can think of multiple friendships where I've put up a buffer because I've communicated my discomfort about a sexist joke or a joke about a sexual abuser and was told that I'm too sensitive.
Second, we need comprehensive sexual education starting in elementary school, using an upstream intervention. Something as simple as asking a classmate in the morning for consent to give them a hug or a high five or a handshake in the morning teaches children at a young age how to ask for consent. I mean, imagine the difference in the reality if the next generation is equipped with the tools of understanding and respecting other people's bodies, how to ask for consent, and also the weight of sexual assault. The reality will look radically different than ours. My sexual education growing up consisted of looking at diagrams of genitalia. Christie's was abstinence only. Neither of us recalls learning about consent or these issues until our public health classes in college. Even at this institution, with over 10,000 students undergrad, I had a male faculty member tell me that sexual assault doesn't occur on this campus. There is little to no acknowledgement of this issue at any level of education.
And finally, we need these conversations to be dinner table conversations. What do we mean by that? We need the stigma surrounding sexual assault to diminish and for everyone to be invested in the effort to ameliorate our society by providing justice to victims, protecting people from violence, and empowering all women. Now, we're not asking you to carry the Me Too movement on your back. We're just asking you to leave today and start conversations with your family and the people in your lives about sexual assault, power dynamics, and consent.
But Christy, what kind of questions would we ask that's so awkward?
Well, don't worry, because we've written some out for you, and we hope that you can use them the next time you're having dinner. So, first, hey, abuela, why is there a stigma surrounding sexual assault? Why have we not had these conversations before?
Question number 2. Hey, Mom, how has the discussion on sexual assault changed throughout your lifetime? How has your perspective changed?
And finally, hey, Dad, as a man, how do you support other men and your sons to help them realize what they need to contribute in order to be a part of this movement? This all sounds simple enough, right?
We all need to have stock in this conversation and work together to break down the barrier of talking about sexual assault. We need to move past the hashtag and into stage 3. Thank you.